Chromosomes. Little strands of nucleic acids and proteins are the fundamental genetic instructions that tell us who we are at birth. Most people are born with 46 chromosomes, but each year in the United States, about 6,000 people are born with an extra chromosome, making them a person with Down syndrome. If you've ever encountered someone with Down syndrome, you know that they are some of the kindest, most joyful people you will ever meet. They truly have something extra. My name is Lisa Nichols, and I have spent the last 24 years as both the CEO of Technology Partners and as the mother to Allie. Allie has something extra in every sense of the word. I have been blessed to be by her side as she impacts everyone she meets. Through these two important roles as CEO and mother to Allie, I have witnessed countless life lessons that have fundamentally changed the way I look at the world. While you may not have an extra chromosome, every leader has something extra that defines who you are. Join me as I explore the something extra in leaders from all walks of life and discover how that difference in each of them has made a difference in their companies, their families, their communities, and in themselves. I'm thrilled to have Steve Gatena on the show today. Steve is a serial media entrepreneur and the founder and CEO of Pray.com. If you like this episode today, please go to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen and leave us a 5-star rating. Well, Steve, welcome to the Something Extra podcast. I am looking so forward to this. And, I've got my coffee. I know you're a coffee drinker. You got your coffee?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Very good. Well, I love technology. We're going to talk a little bit about technology because you've been in tech, basically your whole life, because I know you loved computers even at an early age. But I'm so grateful because you're sitting in Southern California. I'm sitting in St. Louis, and it's just awesome to be able to connect this way. But thank you so much for making the time to be on the Something Extra podcast today.
Thank you for having me. This is an honor and a blessing, and I've been a huge fan of Something Extra for several years now.
Yes, and that is, you and I are in YPO together. And we have been, there's prayer calls on Fridays. And you and I, have been on those prayer calls together. But I remember, Steve, you reaching out to me and saying, hey, I'm a huge Something Extra fan. And so I just immediately liked you, and I'm like, I need this guy in my orbit. And so I'm just so grateful for the friendship, and I'm looking forward to our conversation today. So why don't you take me back, tell me a little bit about how you grew up. I know you've got a story there.
Sure, yeah. I'll take it back to diapers for you. So
that's awesome.
I was born to a single Jewish mom on welfare. So my mom is Jewish and my dad is Catholic. And I was pretty much raised Catholic by my grandma, dragging me to church every Sunday. And to be honest, Lisa, I really hated every minute of it. I couldn't sit still. It wasn't my thing. I'm a super ADHD kind of guy. And really, I was into sports. And I was also into computers when I wasn't doing sports. And in high school, I was recruited, flown to Washington, D.C., and I got pitched by a bunch of 3-letter agencies on how you could use computers in the government. So FBI, DEA, CIA. And I got to see a preview of what we would now today call Google Earth, and how you could take pictures from outer space using satellites. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I said, this is what I want to do when I grow up. And the guy there told me that I should consider going to the United States Naval Academy or the United States Air Force Academy and majoring in computer science. So I went to the United States Air Force Academy out of high school to major in computer science. And I had this, grand plan for my life, and I thought I was set. And my first year at the Air Force Academy, I dislocated my shoulders, collapsed my lung, broke my hand, and got pneumonia. And that's when I realized that my plans for my life were not exactly God's plans for my life. And I got an honorable discharge from the Air Force. But fortunately, Lisa, I'm 6'5". I used to be 310 pounds. I'm only 210 pounds today. And I got to play football in college. And I finished up at the University of Southern California with Coach Pete Carroll and got to win a Rose Bowl. And football was so much fun. It was so fun, Lisa. And I decided, I made a new plan, Lisa. I had a new grand plan. And I was going to go to the NFL. And I was like, I'm going to go be a pro football player. That's my new plan. And my senior year of college, I ended up with 2 fully reconstructed shoulders. And when I came back, I wasn't strong enough to go to the NFL. So that was like the second time that my plans for my life, turns out were not God's plans for my life. And, fortunately, USC is a great school. And I got to take an entrepreneurship.
It is a great school.
It's such a good school. And, one of the special things about the University of Southern California, Lisa, is they mix practical application with theory. So they want their students to go do stuff in the world. They want them to go try things. It's not just like some theoretical learn from a book type of a place. And I took this entrepreneurship class, and my teacher gave us a homework assignment. He said, think of a business that couldn't exist 5 years ago that would boom 5 years from today. And I said there should be a company that makes professional YouTube videos for corporations. And my teacher said, what's YouTube? And so I started this company while I was in school. This is like back in 2008. I started this company that started off making YouTube videos. And by the time I graduated in 2010, we were making all the online video channels for like Red Bull, Amgen, Marriott, Mattel, Los Angeles Dodgers. I think we even did some Build-A-Bear videos out in St. Louis. And that was transformative to my life. It was something that I actually never planned on. I never thought I was going to be like this media, technology, online kind of entrepreneur type person. And it was just life-changing for me. That experience was life-changing.
That is so cool. So that was Rep Interactive?
That was Rep Interactive.
Yeah, I did not know that you started that in college. That's amazing, Steve. But you're not a futurist, but you saw something, there. And that could have been something God planted in your heart too, in knowing that, hey, this is going to be big. And we know now YouTube is the #1 search engine. My goodness, where would we be without YouTube? I remember, our son Jordan, I've told you a little bit about Jordan. He's our oldest. But I remember as a young man, I tried so hard to get him to like piano and to like music. And it was just such a battle. Every time it was time to practice, he and I would get in this big argument. And finally, as a mom, I'm just like, you know what, pick your battles. I'm giving up. But then he came back when he was 16, and guess what? He wished he knew how to play piano. And I remember him using YouTube, Steve, to learn Andrew Weber Lloyd, the Phantom of the Opera.
Wow.
Use YouTube to start learning how to play the piano. It's such a powerful platform. And for you to be able to see that at such a young age is pretty incredible, I think.
It was cool. It was just, it was something that was fun for me. And the learning environment at USC was so fun. And, it wasn't really a highly structured thing, Lisa. And it's like, I think about all these things that have happened in my life. And, when it's been like my plans versus God's plans, right? And I feel like this is this recurring theme in my life, and my takeaway from that is really, and I wasn't even a religious person really when I was starting this YouTube company, and we can talk about kind of what happened later in life, but really the presence of God and the feeling of the presence of God are two different things, right? And just because you don't feel God doesn't mean he isn't doing anything. So that's kind of something when I look back on my life, and I go, it's really cool. It's really cool how this has all unfolded.
His hand was on you, Steve. Yeah. His hand was on you even if you had not like completely surrendered to him yet. And I want to get into that. But, here's the thing. You have founded several companies now. I mean, so Rep Interactive, you were very young. I mean, and I just think, Steve, first of all, what do you think gave you the confidence to say, this is the great unknown, but I'm going to have the courage and the confidence to step into that? Where do you think that confidence came from?
Probably my mom, Lisa. I have this powerhouse of a mom, and she is such a strong woman. And, sometimes we're more alike than we are different. And that strength, can kind of butt into we can butt into each other sometimes. But I think that, being able to have this incredibly strong woman that I could look up to and see somebody that would forge ahead through difficult times, that would have the courage and confidence in herself, that she could figure out a way to take care of her family. When I looked at all the gifts that I have, right, and all the advantages I have, like I got to go to this like fancy school, USC, I got to play football, I'm 6'5", like I get like really good grades without even trying. My mom dropped out of high school. She got pregnant with me when she was 19 years old. She didn't have professors to talk to, right? And watching this woman take care of her family and build a company. She's an entrepreneur. She built a company and figure it out. I'm like, man, I have no excuse. And my mom will be the first person to remind me, hey, you have no excuse. So yeah, I think being able to see a person like that fights and forges ahead into the unknown and does whatever they have to do to take care of their family, I mean, that's really inspiring.
It is. I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking, what an inspiration. I mean, you had an inspirational model of grit and resilience and perseverance and hard work ethic and, the possibilities, right there in front of you, Steve. I'm grateful for your mom too.
I think when you're a son, right, and you have a mom like that, it's easy to not want to listen to your mom when she's telling you to learn piano, right? It's easy to not want to listen to your mom. And eventually, when you come back around to wanting to learn piano and you're watching YouTube vids and you go, you know what, mom was right. And when mom has the grace to be kind and continue to support you and say, yeah, like keep it up, keep watching those YouTube videos, keep learning piano. I always believed in you from the start, which is why I wanted you to learn piano in the first place. It really allows you to kind of live in a vulnerable and safe space as a guy, right? Because like you don't really get that care from other men usually, and not dad, right? But moms have a really interesting role in life that they can play, which is they can be firm and they can be soft, and that can help you through these transitional moments. And, I have an amazing dad too, Lisa, but my dad is, there's no soft part of my dad. He's hardworking, firm firefighter, and, it's always calloused hands.
Maybe not the grace that your mom had. I mean, that is so interesting, Steve. I love that you brought that up. I really do. I love that you brought that up. And it's something to dig into more. But it also just, I hope inspirational. Maybe there's a single mom out there, that is struggling, and do not discount the impression and the inspiration that you're going to be on your children just by getting up every day and doing what you do, to make a living for your family. And so just as an encouragement, possibly if there's some single moms out there or even single fathers that are trying to raise their children, Steve is a testament, that with that grace and with that firmness plus the softness, your children are going to be just fine. Steve has done very well in life. So I love that, Steve. Thank you for bringing that up. But you founded other companies. Tell us just a little bit about your other companies. And then I want to talk about when you were the CEO of Helenet. And then we'll talk about what you're doing currently, which is another company you founded.
Sure, yeah. So my second company was called Video Fort. And Video Fort was started to become this stock video footage company. So some people know about stock photos, and there's places online like shutterstock.com or Getty Images where you can go and you can buy a license to someone else's photo. You pay, $50 or whatever it costs, and you can download their photo and use their photo in your marketing materials or in any kind of promotional materials that you want. I thought, wow, this is a really great idea. We should do this for video clips. And I had all this footage from Rep Interactive that we'd filmed all over the world, whether it's monkeys in Costa Rica or alligators in Louisiana. And, there's other people that want monkeys and alligators, and maybe they could just pay me some money and use my video clips. And so I started Video Fort to give people quality content and creative freedom. And I partnered with a guy named Alan Perwin, who was the founder of a company called Helenet. And Helenet was the largest aerial production company in the world. So they filmed from helicopters mostly, all the major motion pictures and TV shows. And Alan had a bunch of this footage, and I had a bunch of this footage. And we thought, well, let's build the biggest stock video footage library. So we actually built the largest aerial and nature stock footage library in the world. So if you've ever seen Discovery Planet Earth, that was all of our footage. So anytime somebody wanted like a polar bear or a blue whale or something like that, they could license that footage from us. And we became the largest supplier of aerial and nature stock footage to all the biggest stock footage distributors. So Getty Images, Adobe, Shutterstock.com, Fotolia, which was a European company. And that was awesome, Lisa. That was awesome. It was basically like watching Apple TV screensavers and Discovery Planet Earth footage all day long. And I had both of these companies, Rep Interactive and Video Fort, and they were jamming, and we were profitable. And we just hit this like Inc. 5000 list, and we were getting these awards, and it was super exciting. And I had the opportunity to sell the companies. Now, that was a massive financial opportunity for me. I didn't have any money when we started the company. And in fact, I had to get a loan to pay for my master's degree. So I had negative money when we started. And it was so cool to be able to have the opportunity to sell these companies. And I just got married, right? So we're going to be able to buy a house. And I was living my life. And my partner, Alan, said, you know what? I don't want you to sell this company to the company that wants to buy us. I want to buy the company, and I want you to become the CEO of my company, Helenet. And his company was this was like a dream company for me, Lisa. They did aerial production, which I told you about, for TV and film. So Mission Impossible, Transformers, CSI, Law and Order, all that. But we also did air medical transport. So patients and organs, hospital to hospital. So like Children's Hospital, UCLA Medical. And then we also did aerial surveillance. So we did confidential surveillance missions for FBI, DEA, other agencies. And it was a dream, Lisa. We were making movies, saving lives, and catching bad guys. And my business partner basically said, hey, I want you to be the CEO of this company. I'll buy your company. We'll roll it in to this company, and let's not do the sale to the other company. And so I said yes, and it was a dream come true. I mean, I'm 29 years old, right? We're
Crazy.
just living the dream in California and filming all over the world with this helicopter company. It was great. It was really great.
It kind of combines everything. I think about you, Steve, and I just think even what you're doing today, I mean, all of these things that you've done have built on one another. So you go to the Air Force Academy, I mean, you could have been possibly flying fighter jets or something like that, but then now you're flying helicopters for Helena. I mean, it just all has built on one another. I mean, isn't that kind of the way life is sometimes? And, all of these different steps are preparing you for the next step. And sometimes you don't even realize that when it's happening.
It goes back to that kind of, just because you don't feel God doesn't mean he isn't doing anything, right? Because all these instances in my life, I could tell you, at the time I wasn't thinking, oh, God has a plan for my life. That's not what I was thinking. I was thinking I had a dream to be in the Air Force and I failed. I was thinking I had a dream, I had plans to be in the NFL and I failed. And then with the media companies, I was like, I don't even know how I got into this. Like, this was like a homework assignment. I didn't like grow up trying to do this, and like, it's working, but like, I don't know what that means for like my life. So I didn't have some like vision to continue to do this. Right. So, I've always been an ambitious person. I've always been a hardworking person, but I wasn't like executing on some structured plan that I built.
Sure. Right. Right. Well, you know what? We've got so much more to talk about. And I want you to, because there was a major event that happened, a tragic event that really kind of started you on a different kind of quest. But we do need to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Steve Gatena on the Something Extra podcast.
In business, the tendency is to seek out partners who are bigger, faster, stronger. When it comes to IT, you should be looking for smarter, faster, better. That's just what you'll find with the talented technologists at Technology Partners. Our experts develop custom solutions to tackle your most complex challenges, all to simplify your processes in the smartest, most efficient way possible. The time to be swift and nimble starts now. Go to technologypartners.net/solutions and see what's possible.
So welcome back, everyone, to the Something Extra podcast with Steve Gatena. So, Steve, here you are, living the life. You're 29 years old. You're the CEO of Helena, an amazing company, that you never dreamed, really. But, here you are. And there was really a very tragic event that happened in 2015 that really kind of started you on a different kind of quest in your life. So can you tell our listeners that story?
Absolutely. Yeah. Up until this point, Lisa, I was just living the dream, right? Young entrepreneur in Southern California. And I'd been through some challenges, right? Not anything too crazy, but some injuries and, figured out kind of how to overcome them. But I had never had a significant shock to my core. And, I think that for people that have been through experiences like this, they know that a single moment in time can change your life. And that moment in time for me happened on Friday, September 11th, 2015. So to give you an idea of where I was at, it was a Friday. I'm at a Four Seasons hotel in a boardroom, a big boardroom, and we're doing a senior leadership team meeting with our executive staff inside this big boardroom. Those quarterly meetings that, they take all day, and you go through all the feedback and you go through all the numbers and the quarterly reports. It was one of those. And it was towards the end of the day. And we're actually going to end on time. So I figured we would probably end at 5, which is great because normally these days drag on. And my phone rings. I'm looking at the table. My phone rings. It's 4:53 p.m. And it was a weird number. And if you haven't ever gotten one of these phone calls, I hope you never do. And I know that you've gotten these kinds of calls, Lisa. But I pick up the phone. I step into the hallway outside of the boardroom. And the person on the other end says, Steve, Alan's plane crashed. And when you work in aviation, you know that means fatalities. That's just what that means. So I'm in the hallway. Everybody's behind me in the boardroom, entire senior leadership team. And I just didn't know what to do. And I kind of just looked up and I said, God, please get me through this. And I said this little prayer. And I'm not even, not religious. I'm not really like this prayerful person. But I didn't know what to do. There was no professor to help you. There was no study guide. There was no template. And we ended up getting through the next 72 hours. It was a very high profile thing. I had to address the press, ABC, NBC, TMZ, and didn't sleep very much that weekend. So it happened on Friday, and I'm driving to work on Monday morning, and work is about an hour and a half away in traffic. And I'm sitting on the 101 freeway from Westlake Village, where I live, going down to the Van Nuys Airport, where our headquarters was. And I just thought, I literally don't know what to do, Lisa. Literally, like, what do I do when I get to work? Do I bring the whole company together and give them a speech? Do I talk department by department? We're a 24/7, 365 operation. Do I shut down the operations? If I do, people will die because we run, all the children's hospital and medical stuff. So people are going to die if we stop operations. If we keep operations, the number one cause for helicopter crashes is actually pilot distraction. Well, what's more distracting than the founder of the company and the Michael Jordan of helicopters passing away, right? So they're definitely distracted. So now, am I putting them at risk by continuing operations? And I truly didn't know what to say, what words to say, or how to say them. And so I'm in the car, and I start downloading, I pop the YouTube app, and I'm downloading Tony Robbins. And I'm listening to Tony Robbins videos, trying to figure out what words do I say and how do I say them. And, I got to work that day, and we got through that day, and we got through the week. And it was a couple weeks later, and one of the guys that actually worked for me, that's one of my buddies, that said, hey, what are you doing for yourself? And he actually kind of asked me how are you doing? But he said what are you doing? And it was kind of confusing to me at first. And I kind of got what he was asking. Is there somebody I'm talking to? Is there somebody that is helping me get through this? What am I doing? And I told him I was listening to some Tony Robbins, Deepak Chopra, Oprah, I was doing Soul Cycle, going to Bikram yoga, drinking green juices, all this hippie woo-woo California stuff. And the guy said, you should listen to this podcast from my pastor. And I said, pastor? Isn't that a fake priest? They can get married and have kids. Dude, I'm not one of these Jesus people, with the hands up at the church. Also, I'm Jewish. My mom's Jewish. My 23andMe says I'm Jewish. I'm pretty sure I'm not even allowed to go into a church. I think they kick me out if I try to walk in. And he was like, dude, listen to the podcast. So I listened to this podcast, some random guy from some place called Flower Mound, Texas, wherever that is, never been there. And this podcast was incredible, Lisa. This podcast was incredible. And what this guy had to say was for me. And I thought it wasn't. And it was. And that's really where the seed of the idea of what I'm doing today, pray.com, that's where that seed was planted. And that was the thing that really opened my heart to exploring my faith and growing in my faith. You know, God didn't come down and all of a sudden like give me some kind of wings or something on the spot. You know what I mean? That's
you
not
didn't
how
see
it
a
went
burning
down.
bush or anything like that, right, Steve? You didn't have a burning bush experience. But it was in your spirit.
It was in my spirit, and I knew that I just needed something that I didn't have. Mm-hmm. And I felt this hole or like this instability in like my foundation of what I believed. And I had this really great professor from USC. His name's Ben Lee. He's still there. Great professor. He told me once, and I might be like butchering this quote, but this was when I'm doing the first project, and he kept having me read all these books and like go meet people so I could learn how to be an entrepreneur. And he said, in 5 years from now, you'll be the same person you are today. And I was like, what? Like, that's not, nobody tells you that. He said, in 5 years from now, you'll be the same person you are today, except the books you read and the people you introduce yourself to.
Yes. I've heard that same quote. I cannot tell you who originally coined it, but I love that quote. And I have found it to be true for myself, Steve, and I know you have too.
Well, and then I'm like, what books am I reading? And I was like, well, this guy in this podcast is like talking about the Bible, telling you to read your Bible. I'm like, I literally have no idea what's in the Bible. Like I kind of, because I grew up in the United States, but like not really, right? And like what he was talking about on his podcast, by the way, the guy's name was Matt Chandler. He's a pastor from Flower Mound, Texas at the Village Church. What he was talking about in the podcast that was titled The Peace That Jesus Brings, right? Is he was talking about this thing that comes from the Bible that is for you meaning for me, for you, for all of us. And like, maybe we should explore this. I mean, he's telling you definitely this is your thing, right? He's a pastor, but that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, hey, maybe I need to like check this out. So I started reading the Bible and I started listening to these sermons, right? These podcasts. They were podcasting at the time. I don't even think I really knew what a sermon was at the time. And that is really the thing that transformed my life. And I decided, Lisa, like, this is what I want to build my life on. This is what I need in my life. This is what I need to build my family around. This is what is going to take care of my spirit, my soul for eternity. And I want more of this. I want this because I had all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. And it actually, the other stuff didn't matter when I needed something the most.
Right. Oh, well, you know what? You're like, I need this. I need this in my life. But Steve, what I love about you is you took it a step further, because you're like, I know other people need this too. And that's what you're doing today, because you are now the CEO and the founder of pray.com. The other thing that's really interesting to me as I'm listening to you talk, you are a media serial entrepreneur. And it was through media that you were reached.
That's true.
That's
true. And Lisa, I would tell you, And like, this is so bad for me to say, but it's true. I don't want to go to church. I want to feel like I went to church. I am still this media person. Lisa, I walk like 7 miles a day alone. And all I do is listen to content. And I am an extrovert, so I actually do love people. But also growing up, I was like this large, awkward kid. We didn't have a bunch of money, so like I wasn't able to wear cool clothes. I was wearing like hand-me-downs half the time. They never fit. Like I really felt not cool. Mm-hmm. And there was a huge sense of self-consciousness that I had. And so when I go into these big settings, I have a lot more confidence in who God made me to be now. But when I go into these big settings, I kind of will get nervous and not know how to talk to people or not know how to start a conversation or create friendships. And so like the idea of we're going to have a building, an open room, and everybody in your town is going to show up on Sunday at 9, and you got to be wearing like the right outfit. You got to know how to say like the right things. Like
gives
that.
You a little social anxiety.
A little bit of
social anxiety.
Yeah, but if it's all my friends and they're in there, I'm excited, right? But if it's people I don't know, I'm like, ooh, like I'm not sure, like what do I say? And so just the thought of walking into a church for me 5 years ago was like very scary. I'm like, I'm not a theologian. I don't know the Bible inside and out. Like my mom's Jewish, my dad's Catholic. Neither of those things are kind of working for me. I kind of like this, what is this weird evangelical kind of Southern Baptist flavor of a thing? I kind of like this kind of thing. But then also I'm not really trying to walk into a room full of people with their hands up playing the guitar,
Right. Well, that's where these podcasts and online and media can be used, to reach people. And so that's just what I love that you're doing. Pray.com has had 10 million downloads, probably more by now. That was the last count that I had. It's the #1 app for daily prayer and faith-based content. It's in the top 5 lifestyle apps in the Apple Store. I mean, this pray.com, it's just been amazing. And you really felt like called to do this, Steve. But you at first were like, I'm not really sure. And what did your sweet wife Jessica say to you?
Okay, so in the beginning, yep, in the beginning,
Steve was in diapers.
Yeah. I'm a media entrepreneur, right? So I knew I was going to entrepreneurialize some media. And I hadn't even 100% fully put together the media plus the entrepreneur piece, that those were kind of my gifts and skills. But I knew I was an entrepreneur for sure. And I explored a lot of other options. The first thing I did was I actually bought back my old company, my stock video footage company. Oh. And I was like, I'm going to do this. I know how to do this. It's a really good business. And that's what I'm going to do. And I'll be like the stock video guy. And I did that because I was scared, Lisa. I did that because I was scared. It was something I was comfortable with. It was something I knew how to do. And I told my wife, this is what I'm going to do. And she said, she basically called me out. And she said, that's going backwards. That's going backwards in your life. And I gave her all these reasons for why it was a good idea, making money. And it was always like, it was something not as important as purpose. And she said, well, I would encourage you to just think about that a little more and think about what do you want to do with the rest of your life. And what do you feel like you're called to do? And she used the word called. And I was like, called, you know? And my wife's got like a Bible next to her nightstand, but she's not like she's not like evangelizing people, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And man, I looked for all these other things that I could do that weren't pray.com, knowing that this opportunity to build the digital destination for faith content was needed in the world. And there was all these reasons why I didn't want to do it, Lisa, because I'm from Southern California. I don't have like a PhD in theology. People are going to think I'm weird. Like, I didn't even grow up going to church. Like, my dad's not a pastor. Like, what's the list of reasons? And it was something that I just couldn't outrun. It was something I couldn't outrun. And I just knew that I had to do this. And I believed that this was my calling. I was like, I've got all these skills that I never planned on having, by the way. And I had this opportunity, and I had the opportunity to buy the domain pray.com. It was very expensive, but I had the opportunity to buy it. And I went through this experience, and these podcasts changed my life. Really, God spoke to me through some random dude in Flower Mound, Texas that I've never met in
Matt Chandler.
Matt Chandler. Yep. And I'm like,
yep.
You know, I don't know what the answer is, but I know that this is the direction I have to go. And I was scared. I was scared to do it. And my wife really encouraged me.
There's so much in there, packed in there, Steve, because, you know, we can feel that in our spirit that this is something we're supposed to do. But, you know, fear a lot of times will hold us back. We want to go to a comfortable place. But, there's the old adage, growth never happens in the land of comfort. Never happens in the land of comfort. You're going to grow when you get out of the comfort zone, right? Following your calling. And, it's just so beautiful. So beautiful.
You know what the magnet was for me, Lisa? God brought these people into my life that are my co-founders now. And I had known them for a while. And they wanted to just check in on me and see how things were. Mike Lynn, Ryan Beck, and Matt Potter are my three co-founders. And when I shared with them this idea, they immediately said, we're in. We're doing this with you. And I didn't even ask them to do it with me, by the way. And God kept bringing these people into my life. And even though I was scared, man, there was something about these Christians. They were courageous and loving at the same time, and they had so much conviction, and they were willing to do the work, and also kind of, they had this hope for the future. And I was like, that's what I need. That's what I need in my life. That's what I want to be like. Like, that's the person that I want to become one day.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, you need those people. You always say, we were never created to do life alone. That's why we need community. That's why we need whatever you want to call it, tribe, whatever. You need those people who are going to, speak truth into you when you need that truth spoken. And I think about Steve, I think about, Moses and Aaron. And I think, about, how, Moses got tired and Aaron held up his arms, and as long as his arms were held high, the Israelites were winning against the Midianites, and I just think you got to have those people sometimes, right? Like your co-founders that are holding up your arms when maybe you feel weary. I don't know. It's so beautiful. I mean, I think I could talk to you for like days, literally. And I've got so much more to talk about. But listen, here's what I do know about you too, which I think is really cute, because I'm like, I just spoke to some women about this last week, because I'm going through the Bible, in a year right now. And I have read the story of Joseph like thousands of times, I think, over my lifetime. And Joseph in the Technicolor Dreamcoat, but like, I've been reading through his story, and there's so much profound wisdom there that you and I can talk about, on a sidebar. But I'll just tell you one thing that I love, and it's where the cupbearer had forgotten, that Joseph was the one that interpreted the dream. And he said, please don't forget me when you get back, into Pharaoh's presence. And of course he forgot. And then Pharaoh has a dream. And the cupbearer was like, oh yeah, I know this guy. Oh yeah, there's this guy in prison that could interpret dreams. And I just love it because Pharaoh goes, oh, Joseph, I understand that you can interpret dreams. And Joseph said a few words, Steve, that just, boy, when I heard this again, I'm just like, hit me. He said, I cannot, but God can. And it's that but God. So I love this, and I chuckle because I know you love Joseph. And you have even
Joseph
likened yourself you've likened yourself to him because he was a dreamer. And of course the dreaming kind of got him in trouble a couple of times. But, I look at you and I'm thinking, you were a dreamer too. You dreamed that you could play in the NFL. You dreamed that, you would, be an officer in the Air Force. I mean, all these different things. So I just love that. So I'm going to ask you, what is your dream right now for pray.com?
Really, I just want Pray to be the world's #1 brand in faith. That's really what I want it to be. When people see the word pray, I want them to feel hope. I want them to feel encouraged. I want them to feel inspired. I'm an entrepreneur. We built a for-profit company. Pray is not a non-profit ministry. It's not a church. It's a company. It's a company that's built on profit and purpose, margin and mission. And I just think that there needs to be a brand out there that is this symbol of being able to grow your faith, right? Being able to cultivate community, being able to leave a legacy of helping others, being able to have hope for yourself and share encouragement with the people in your life. Like, why don't we have that? Why doesn't that brand exist? And that brand should not only exist, but it should exist for everyone all over the world in every language for eternity.
Yeah.
And I think that, we have a belief in how that brand gets built, and it's by sharing these stories, right? And sharing wisdom from the Bible. And that's what we're working on. And today that looks like an app, right? We have this pray.com app. By the way, anybody that wants a free subscription, just go to pray.com/Steve, enter in your email, download the app. And so we have this app, and we also have these podcasts. So we have BibleInAYear.com. You go to BibleInAYear.com, you can sign up for our Bible in a Year podcast. We have all this media content, but one day, it's not just going to be media content or software. It's going to be experiences, events, physical products, merchandise. Like, how many ways can we help people grow their faith and cultivate a strong faith community around them? It's limitless.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love everything that you're doing there. Because you said, really, you kind of looked around and you're like, well, there's ESPN for sports, but what is there for faith, And so pray.com, it's going to be all those things. I really do believe that. So Steve, this has been so much fun, and I literally could keep talking to you for hours. I still have pages of notes about morning routines, all kinds of things. You've already told us a few things. So I do know you love coffee, and I know you walk 7 miles a day, and you drink a lot of water. I do know that about you too. Like gallons.
I drink a gallon a day.
You drink a gallon a day. So, there's a lot of other things we could talk about, but this is something extra. I have to ask you, what's the something extra that you believe every leader needs, Steve?
Prayer. I believe that you should pray. And if you don't know how to pray, that's okay. You don't need to have some special exact way to pray. The way I dumb it down is it comes down to 2 things: thank you, and help me. Do both of those and pray to God every day, and your life will be enriched.
Amen. I love that. Thank you. And help me now. That's awesome. I love that, Steve. Well, hey, I'm so grateful that you're my friend.
I'm grateful.
I'm
just pumped to know you, Lisa. Honestly, I'm like, I told you, I was like, all these awesome Christians in the world, what's happening? Why are they so nice, positive, devoted? It's like, and to be able to be a part of this YPO Christian Fellowship Network, it's really a kind of a game changer for me, because I don't know a lot of people that are as successful as you are, and then also as faithful as you are, right? So you have these two things, and it's like, when I think about Joseph, and I think about, you have to be faithful in the field so you could be successful in the palace, right? And I don't know a lot of people that have gone through that, and so to be surrounded by these great leaders that I can learn from, it's really an honor.
Well, to God be the glory. Absolutely. He gets all the glory. It's all about him. It's all for him, Steve. So I just appreciate you. And listen, listeners, go follow Steve on LinkedIn. Every single day, he is putting out just an inspirational story. I know that you'll love it. Follow him. Just go download pray.com. And thanks again, my friend. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you for listening to today's show. Something Extra with Lisa Nichols is a Technology Partners production. Copyright Technology Partners, Inc., 2019. For show notes or to reach Lisa, visit tpi.co/podcast. Don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, or wherever you listen.